This is the Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra and it's Samsung's top of the line wearable in 2024. Now, I'll go right ahead and say this. This is Samsung's best wearable to date. But, having used this for a good few weeks, there's one thing you absolutely need to know about the Galaxy Watch Ultra. And I'll get to that sticking point in this video where I also review its design, its specs, test out how ultra it is by using it for several outdoor and indoor activities, test out its battery life claim in different modes, compare its heart rate sensor accuracy against an ECG chest strap, test its dual band GPS antenna and offline maps features, talk about what's not so good about it.
You're 42 meters off course.
What's good about it? Watch will then trigger this really loud siren that can, okay, let's give it a chance. And much more to find out if Samsung have really managed to bridge that gap between a smartwatch and the Sportswatch with their first Galaxy Watch Ultra. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty details of this watch, I just wanted to talk about the pricing and variants available for this watch. Now, this comes in one size, which is a large 47mm watch and costs $650 or £599. Now, all Galaxy Watch Ultras come in the LTE option, so you can load an eSIM onto it and use it independent of your phone. Now, there's three options for the case. There's titanium grey, titanium silver and white with three different band types called marine, trail and peak form. Now I've got the titanium grey case here with the marine band in orange, and this band is actually quite bright and eye-catching, but I definitely like the contrast between the grey and the orange color on this version. Now, looking at the design of the Galaxy Watch Ultra, this thing is an absolute chunks of a watch, and in my initial reaction video, I called the shape a squircle and felt that there were two members of the design team that couldn't agree on a design. One wanted a classic rectangular shape of an Apple Watch Ultra, and the other wanted the classic Samsung Galaxy circular shape, and they had to settle on this halfway house design, which is not a square and not a circle as well. So it hasn't grown on me as much as I would have liked. Now I say this is a chunks of a watch, but it's actually not been that heavy for me to use day to day, and that's just a personal opinion. And Samsung have actually managed to make this look a bit more rugged with this massive bezel right at the top and these accented watch arm markers, which are in orange on top of the grey casing in this specific version. So I really like that attempt by Samsung to make this look more rugged and different to their classic Galaxy Watch 7. Now I mentioned the bezel on the Galaxy Watch Ultra, but it's fixed. It doesn't really do much. It just stays there with the watch arm markers. And I think Samsung have missed a trick here. They could have implemented their famous rotating bezel like they had on the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic, I think. But the Galaxy Watch Ultra also has an internal storage of 32GB, so there's plenty of space for all sorts of sports apps and music. And the display here is a bright and colorful AMOLED touchscreen that has actually been an absolute joy to use day to day, outdoors as well as indoors, and the resolution is amazing as well. It's the same as they have on the Galaxy Watch 7, but the peak brightness on this goes up to 3000 nits, which is actually the highest figure Samsung has ever introduced in any of their wearables. So that's a really plus point for the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Now, speaking of displays, this is actually made of sapphire crystal glass, which is expected of a rugged sports watch like this, and in my really heavy and rough usage, I've absolutely had no issues or marks thus far on this watch. It's also IP68 rated with 10 atmospheres water resistance, which is around 100 meters water depth. It's also been tested to the military standard for ruggedness in various conditions. So overall durability specs are really good on the Galaxy Watch Ultra. And at the back, there's Samsung's proprietary bioactive suite of sensors, and I'll be testing out the optical heart rate sensor accuracy of this watch later on in this video. Okay, so let's talk about the user interface of the Galaxy Watch Ultra, and this thing is running Google's latest Wear OS 5, just like the Galaxy Watch 7. And it's been absolutely fine. The software speed and the user interface has been snappy. The text, the colors, the animations look really good on this watch. It's much better than something like a Polar Grit X2 Pro that I reviewed recently, and I'd say it also trumps Garmin's own operating system as well. Now the user interface is really simple here with the main touchscreen of course and 3 buttons on the right, and I actually use that rotating bezel quite a lot as it's easy to whiz around the UI and scroll past longer menu items fairly quickly with that. Now the central button on the Galaxy Watch Ultra, which is accented in orange here, is a shortcut button to actually access the sport profiles available on this watch. watch. It can also be used to do other things like switch on the torch, which is just the screen turning white, and long pressing that central button does something really interesting, which I'll show you later on in this video. Now there's also gestures such as double pinch, shaking your wrist, and knocking gestures similar to the Galaxy Watch 7, using which you can perform various functions like answering calls, taking photos, dismissing notifications, controlling music, etc. There's also a massive library of watch faces, and there are some ultra dashboards as well, showing a whole heap of data in just one glance. Now, I'd say this is probably one of the best suite of watch faces available for a sports watch in 2024, noting that Garmin also have a massive library of watch faces for their sports watches, but they aren't as customizable or as user-friendly as the ones available on the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Okay, so let's talk about the smart capabilities and features of this watch. Now, with Google's Play Store being pre-installed here, there's a ton of apps that can be downloaded onto the watch, and in addition to all of the usual smart apps like Google Maps, WhatsApp, etc., there's a ton of sports and outdoor focused apps here like Strava, Komoot, Nike Run Club, All Trails, Peloton, and much more, which is absolutely great. And there's also Galaxy AI for the first time on a Samsung wearable, and this does things like estimate an energy score when you wake up in the morning, do some more number crunching for your sleep, and so on. You can even make phone calls from the Galaxy Watch Ultra. I mean, this thing actually has a keypad, speaker, and mic that you can use to speak to others. If you install an eSIM, the watch will be able to make calls independent of your phone. Now, keeping the Apple Watch Ultra aside, I think this is the largest suite of smart features that you will find in a sports watch in 2024. Okay, so let's talk about all of the things that the Galaxy Watch Ultra can do from a health, performance, and metrics tracking. So you've got the usual list of different activities like running, elliptical trainer, weightlifting, yoga, etc. And on top of that, there's also multi-sport activities now pre-built into this watch. So you've got a triathlon profile, duathlon, aquathlon, or you can even create your own custom multi-sport activity, which is amazing. Now, given the nature and duration of these longer activities, Samsung have also built in an exercise power saver mode, which can reduce the frequency of GPS and heart rate tracking to make the Galaxy Watch Ultra last even longer, which they claim can last for up to 48 hours in that exercise power saver mode. Now, in addition to activities, the Galaxy Watch Ultra can also track your sleep, all-day blood oxygen levels, stress levels, actual skin temperature, not just variations like other watches, and then use all of that data to produce some really good insight and feedback within the Samsung Health app. Now, there's also ECG sensors on the Galaxy Watch Ultra that you can use to detect signs of atrial fibrillation, blood oxygen monitoring, as well as a bioimpedance electrical analysis sensor that can use to measure your body composition. Oh, and I mentioned sleep tracking earlier in this video, and the watch shows a decent amount of information like the duration, time spent in each sleep stage, average resting heart rate, blood oxygen saturation levels, and trend over the last few days. But more importantly, assigns you a sleep animal based on the last few nights of sleep and then coach you to develop some better sleeping habits. So for example, Samsung say that my sleep animal here is a lion, apparently because I've developed really good sleeping habits over the last few weeks. And this whole concept of sleep animals and sleep coaching was first developed by Fitbit, who came up with this idea and then locked it behind a premium subscription paywall, whereas Samsung have actually provided all of this information, data, and analysis for free to all of its users, which is actually on par with quite a lot of the sports watch manufacturers like Garmin, Polar, or Suunto. So that's really good to see here, and hopefully Samsung will not go down the route of Fitbit or Google and locking all of this stuff behind a premium subscription. Let's talk about battery life, and the Galaxy Watch Ultra packs a 590 milliamp hour battery capacity, and Samsung have made several claims about how long this can last on a single charge. Now, if you've been following this channel, you know that I never trust manufacturer claims when it comes to battery lives because they're always tested in really strict conditions. And in the case of the Galaxy Watch Ultra, I've used it as if it was my own daily driver for the last few weeks to give you a realistic picture of how long it can last on a single charge. So in the case of this watch, when I used it in normal mode where the always on display was turned off, but the screen wake gesture was turned on, the Galaxy Watch Ultra lost around 21% battery every night whilst I was sleeping and 11% during workouts. Now overall, the Galaxy Watch Ultra lasted for 48 hours or 2 days on a single charge with some fairly heavy usage. Now, I also had a long weekend where I was attending a wedding and didn't do any activities or sports with minimal usage of the watch for messages, maps, etc. And in the same normal mode, it lasted for 65 hours or just over 2.5 days on a single charge. Now, I went a step further and used the Galaxy Watch Ultra in its power saving mode. And in this mode, there's a whole heap of things turned off. And the Galaxy Watch Ultra lost around 8% battery every night whilst I was sleeping, which is better than the 21% in normal mode. And it was again 11% battery drain during workouts, which is exactly the same as I had in the normal mode. Overall, the Galaxy Watch Ultra lasted for 80 hours or just over 3 days on a single charge. Now, this 80 hours is again not quite the same as 100 hours claimed by Samsung, but in this power saving mode, I did manage to squeeze in an outdoor 5K run as well as an indoor cycling session, so it's not that bad. And you know what, I wouldn't recommend anyone to use that power saving mode on the Galaxy Watch Ultra because there's no useful feedback provided in the Samsung Health app within that mode, so you don't get things like energy score, sleep tracking, heart rate variability, nothing. It's just empty. So in normal mode, expect somewhere close to 2 days on the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Now, I'm not exactly sure what's up with Samsung's wearables in 2024. They don't seem to be as efficient with battery usage as they should be. I mean, you've got companies like Garmin, Polar, and Suunto that are churning out sports watches lasting for more than 1 week on a single charge. So 21% battery drain whilst I'm sleeping on the Galaxy Watch Ultra is frankly bizarre. And that actually brings me on to some of the annoying things about the Galaxy Watch Ultra. One of the most annoying things about the Galaxy Watch Ultra is that if you use strength training gloves with wrist supports, this central button can be triggered very easily, which pauses the activity, and you can't realize that unless you look at the screen and see the small green text at the top that says paused. I mean, see for yourself. On this side, I'll post a strength training activity recorded by the Galaxy Watch Ultra, which is a whole 6 minutes less than what the Galaxy Watch 7 recorded, and I'll show you that on this side, even though I started the activity at the same time on both of these watches. And last week, the Galaxy Watch Ultra recorded only 6 minutes of a 36-minute activity. It's just super annoying. Now, the Galaxy Watch Ultra can use and display offline maps if you're in an outdoor activity, but annoyingly, even if you see that you're visually going in the right direction on the watch itself, the watch will always try to announce that you're going off course if it detects that you're just a few meters away from the actual track.
You're 42 meters off course.
And it confused us a few times during this hike, and in the end, we just concluded that we're heading in the right direction and just ignored all of the announcements that the watch was making. Now, I've had the same issue on the Galaxy Watch Ultra as I did on the Galaxy Watch 7, in that I like to work on my abs a couple of days a week where I do like a HIIT exercise, but for abs, 30 seconds of work and then 30 seconds of rest. But annoyingly, on the Galaxy Watch Ultra, there isn't a HIIT timer or a HIIT activity anywhere. I mean, there's a massive list of exercises here and singular activities like arm curls and bench presses, but Samsung couldn't figure out how to add a HIIT timer on the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Now, I mentioned the ECG sensors and the blood pressure monitoring on the Galaxy Watch Ultra earlier in this video, and when you go into the Samsung Health app, you'll see these two tiles for blood pressure readings as well as ECG readings. But when you press them, it then takes you to a separate app called Samsung Health Monitor, and it just baffles me why Samsung have two apps doing two different things. I mean, Samsung, why can't you just integrate all of that in a single app? It's not all negative though. Here are some cool features about the Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra. Now, a lot of outdoor sports watches have emergency fall detection features built into them. So if you happen to fall when you're running, hiking, trail running, or mountain biking, the watches will notify your emergency contacts automatically. And you've got that on the Galaxy Watch Ultra, where you can press the top button 5 times and the watch will automatically call emergency services. Now, on top of that, Samsung have gone a step beyond, where you can long press the central button for more than 5 seconds and the watch will then trigger this really loud siren that can... Okay, let's give it a chance. It's really loud. Samsung claimed that it can go as far as 180 meters from when the siren is triggered. So that's really good, because if you happen to fall somewhere really deep where people can't easily see you, triggering this siren will hopefully help them notice you and give you immediate support. So that's really good to see on the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Now the display on the Galaxy Watch Ultra is actually quite smart. It automatically switches to night mode where it dims the display and turns it into a vision preserving view. So you can still enjoy your nighttime activity if you're on a multi-day hike, for an example, or if you don't want to wake up your partner when you're checking something on your watch at night. Now, if you're into cycling, this is really good news. For the first time on a Samsung wearable, you can now get an FTP or functional threshold power estimate in as low as 4 minutes, as long as you're cycling at medium to high intensity. Now that's really cool because historically you've had to run that test for around an hour before you could get any form of FTP number. But now on the Galaxy Watch Ultra, you can get an estimate in the fraction of that duration. Now, if you're into outdoor activities, the Galaxy Watch Ultra not only has a compass built into it, but it also has a meter that can tell you the incline of the route you're biking, running, or hiking on. And on top of that, it can give you an estimate of the altitude as well as the barometric pressure that can help you stay up to speed. Okay, so let's talk about the heart rate sensor accuracy of the Galaxy Watch Ultra. And Samsung say that they have upgraded the bioactive sensors for the Galaxy Watch Ultra. So I've been really keen to test this out when I've been running outdoors, cycling, as well as strength training at the gym. And to benchmark my heart rate readings, I've used Polar's H10 chest strap, which uses ECG to record heart rate data and is often considered as the gold standard for heart rate measurement. So looking at indoor cycling, there's really good match with the ECG chest strap, and the Galaxy Watch Ultra managed to keep up with most peaks and troughs. There's just a couple of areas where there was a difference of around 14 beats per minute at the start and then 10 beats per minute midway, but overall really good start for the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Next, let's look at outdoor running, where there's a little bit more movement of the wrist and arms, but it's still one of the easier activities for a watch like this to record. And the heart rate readings show that there's a decent match with the chest strap. The rise in heart rate is almost in sync with the chest strap. There were a few instances where there was a difference of around 10 to 18 beats per minute, and I think this was when my arms were getting really sweaty towards the end of the run and the chunky casing just started to move around the wrist a little bit. But overall, the watch picked up most of the intervals in my runs, so no major issues here. Now, strength training at the gym is something really difficult for wrist-based wearables like this to record because there's quite a lot of movements of the wrist as well as flexions between the heart rate sensor on the watch as well as the wrist. But the Galaxy Watch Ultra performed actually really well. It managed to keep up with most peaks and troughs during this chest and triceps workout. I was actually surprised at this part where I just dropped the weights and rested for a bit. And it's moments like these that throw wrist-based sensors off. But the Galaxy Watch Ultra actually stayed locked onto my heart rate and was just 1 to 2 beats per minute off from the chest strap. Overall, the accuracy for strength training was really good. Better than I expected, in fact. Okay, so let's look at the GPS accuracy of the Galaxy Watch Ultra, and this watch actually has dual band technology built into it, which is on par with most outdoor premium sports watches. You can also load GPX or TCX routes on the Galaxy Watch Ultra for offline outdoor navigation and mapping, which is a really good feature to see in this watch. And looking at one of the outdoor runs in the city, the Galaxy Watch Ultra did fairly well. It tracked me on the correct side of the road that I ran on, and it still kept my position locked on through this tree coverage and stayed with me even when I went a bit deeper into the city with some shops and buildings on either side of a narrow road. Next up is a hike in a gorge with some really dense vegetation and cliffs on either sides, and a couple of tunnels to really up the challenge for the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Now, the blue track represents the Polar Grit X2 Pro, which covered a route fairly well, and the green track here represents the Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra, which I'm testing here. And the hike started off fine, actually better where the Galaxy Watch Ultra stayed locked onto our location solidly, and also did fairly well in an area where I thought it would struggle, as there's quite a lot of tree coverage and cliffs on either side of the track. But the Galaxy Watch Ultra's tracking looks fairly close to the Polar Grit X2 Pro's route, even inside the tunnels where the watch was properly locked onto our location. Now, I think that the dual band antenna on the Galaxy Watch Ultra performs really well. I mean, I did my best to throw it completely off by taking into a gorge with some really dense vegetation, cliffs on either side of our route, as well as a few tunnels, but the watch managed to track our route fairly accurately, which is really good to see here. Okay, so let's talk about the Samsung Health app here, and the interface is really clean here, and it shows you all of the health metrics measured by the Galaxy Watch Ultra in a bit more detail. The main page shows you the energy score feature, which is a score representing your mental and physical readiness. And I think Samsung have done a really good job. There's quite a lot of insight and good feedback here to help me at least improve on habits. So looking at activities in a bit more detail, the app presents the performance metrics really well. Firstly in these summary tiles, and then in a bit more detail if you go into any of these tiles. So say for example the advanced running metrics here, you see these colorful charts, and for running there's actually a really good amount of information that I wasn't really expecting on top of the usual heart rate and pace chart. So there's things like symmetry when running, ground contact time, flight time, regularity, and even body stiffness. Now I'm a long-time Garmin user, and seeing data like this coming out from the Galaxy Watch Ultra is really impressive. Now at the top, pressing the connected button opens up the Galaxy Watch Ultra settings, so you can customize things like watch faces, tiles, app screens, and all sorts of watch settings. And there's also a whole heap of training programs available for free that you can add to your calendar, and the app along with the Galaxy Watch Ultra will coach you through these programs. And there's workout videos for different types of workouts provided for free and regularly upgraded by Samsung. Now overall, I'm really impressed by the Samsung Health app. It's probably one of the best apps I've used for a wearable in this year, and it presents all of the data in a really nice and intuitive manner. There's no gimmicks, no paywalls, nothing at all. So well done, Samsung. So then, have Samsung been successful in creating a sports watch here that can compete with the likes of Garmin, Polar, or Suunto? Now I stand by what I said earlier in this video. This to me is Samsung's best wearable till date. It has amazing durability, really good suite of smart apps and features, has really good health performance and recovery tracking features, and also has LTE connectivity, which is actually absent from Garmin, Polar, or Suunto sports watches, and can also do multi-sport profiles like triathlons. Samsung have almost managed to blur the lines between a smartwatch and a sports watch, and I say almost because I do have to warn you about the battery life on the Galaxy Watch Ultra. The most I could get is between 2 and 2.5 days, which is quite a bit less than more than a week that you can get with Garmin, Polar, or Suunto watches. So I'd recommend this sports watch only to someone who wants the absolute best from Samsung today, can track multi-sport profiles, and also has LTE connectivity. But if you don't care about LTE connectivity or Google's Wear OS system built into a sports watch, definitely check out my full in-depth review of the Polar Grit X2 Pro, which has amazing battery life, more than 9 days on a single charge, as well as Garmin's Forerunner 165, which lasted for more than a week on a single charge. Alright, so I just wanted to say thanks to all of the subscribers to this channel, and to new viewers. Don't be shy from smashing that subscribe button for more detailed reviews on wearable tech just like this. See you in the next one.